And now we can get to your story, which we discussed briefly on our episode. You did an awesome job on one of my favorite podcasts, the Off the Couch podcast with Maggie Stewart. You guys did an amazing job. I loved hearing your story there. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into this metabolic health space and what that looked like for you?
Yeah, I think I always thought I was a healthy eater, generally whole foods. I still like sweets and everything, but I did have really severe migraines and chronic canker since I was probably 11 or 12. And it the I guess, and then I had heard, I don't know if it was, I can't remember at that time, it was also coincided with my mom getting Alzheimer's. And I thought, oh, what's good for brain health? And so I just went off sugar and gluten, and the migraines went away, the cankers went away. I felt a little bit better. My goal was to not get Alzheimer's like my mom. She passed away in 2018. And then my son was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And I was doing everything I could to help him, from different doctors, went to New York for brain SPECT imaging, sent him to a healing, like where they do ayahuasca. It was in Costa Rica, a healing center. And just anything, like you just try anything, because at that time it was presented as pretty severe depression. So the psychosis didn't happen yet. And then the psychosis happened, and it's pretty severe. So bipolar 1 is, it has very extreme mania, whereas bipolar 2 would have more hypomania and probably longer bouts of depression. Well, my son had the extreme of both, very debilitating depression. And the first psychotic episode was terrifying. It's terrifying. You don't know what's happening. This has never happened before. And so we had to take him to emergency. And I was very grateful for the hospital at that point in my life, because he was not well. So they were able to sedate him. And then the key is sleep, because people that are hypomanic or in a psychotic episode, the way their brain's working with the glutamate, they have energy. They have so much energy that they don't need to sleep. And they're like, I don't need sleep. And so you need that. This is where medication does come in handy, where it could help them sleep. So he has had, he's since had 5 episodes. And I would say after the 4th one, where we went to the hospital for a day or 2, he voluntarily went. I'm like, I'm not going to send you back to the hospital. Like, we're not going back there. And he agreed. He goes, don't bring me back there. I'm like, this sucks. And I said, hey, I've got your meds at home. I mean, I know I'm not a prescriber or a nurse or a doctor, but I've known enough psychiatrists in this field that I had chit chatted with. And Jan Ellison Bazuki, she's she's the one doing all the research, and the founder of Metabolic Mind. She's been very supportive, and this community is very open about what we do with the meds and stuff. But anyway, so the 5th one, I kept him at home, and he agreed to take some antipsychotics, because I had learned that they can be one-offs just for sleep. So but before I get to that awful hospital experience, I just want part of the journey. And I still know where I was driving. I was listening to Max Lugavere interview Dom D'Agostino. It was an Alzheimer's episode on Alzheimer's. And just like in there, they started talking about bipolar disorder, and there was like a nutritional intervention for it. And I'm like now, of course there is. Yes, of course. I understand how the brain works and the glucose metabolism. And, now it's so clear. But at the time, I'd never heard of that. And this is a lot of our story. So I almost pulled over. Like I just thought, well, and I was studying holistic nutrition already. I was just doing it part-time. So I was it took me 3 years to get that certification. And So it's halfway through, I think. And I'm saying, and I thought, wait a minute, I'm studying nutrition and you're telling me there's a nutritional intervention for bipolar disorder. And then the names that were mentioned in it were Chris Palmer, Jan Ellison, Matt Bazuki, and Ian Campbell. And so then, Casey, everything changed. And here I am. And I took George's course. I see these people, I've seen Chris Palmer talk. He sat beside me at one of the conferences and we talked about my son. And I know he was sort of reprimanding me a bit because he said, you're not a doctor. I'm like, I know, but my like it's sex around here. Like, I'm sorry, because I'm like kind of tapering the meds and stuff. So anyway, so that is where I found metabolic psychiatry. That is where I found the world of Chris Palmer, Georgia E, Nicole Laurent, Ian Campbell, incredible researcher with bipolar himself, studying bipolar in Edinburgh. And he's fascinating, Casey. Do you ever read anything he writes? He's like a
of
real,
course.
yeah. And you've seen his music. He's a music
Yeah.
composer. The way he sees bipolar is like kind of like a superhero. And I really appreciate that because I often would say to my son, let's see this like it's the gift of bipolar. Let's see, your brain can access so many things. So the psychosis is, and Hannah can talk about this too, Hannah Warren, there's some truth to that dimension they reach when they're in the psychosis, but sort of like, yeah, but we all live in the valley. So you've been up to the mountain here, but can you find a way to live down in the valley with us, with all this knowledge you have, and decipher what's going to be useful and what's like just junk, So, and when I read Ian's, what he writes, and he's so poetic, and I love the way he sees the bipolar brain. It makes me happy as a mother with a child, like who has a child like this, that my child is going to be okay. My son, he's 20, he's going to be 26, but he's going to be okay once he figures it out, because he's an adult, and I'm just going to I'm surrounded by all these incredible people like Robyn Dobbins, who we can say their bipolar is in remission, or as Matt Bazuki says, he's cured his bipolar, whatever you want to call it. Mia Mendes, who you interviewed, she counsels my son actually. And she is, she's the only person that my son didn't close down to. Like, he really got tired of talking to psychiatrists and psychotherapists, whatever, but she doesn't need to tell him to do keto. Like, that's not what she talks about. If he wants to know, she could support him, but she's just saying, like, this is how to do life. This is how you can do life, and so, he'll talk to her once in a while, but
that does not surprise me. She is as real gets. That does not surprise me that she connects well with him.
Yeah, and she's it's like she's my counselor, because we took George's course together. And when I found that out, to me, she was already a celebrity. I had already seen her on Bipolar Cast. I was thrilled she was in my course, because Georgia will only train 6 people at a time, and we're all in a live Zoom call. And you get to know people. So me and I have kept in touch, and I'm one of her biggest cheerleaders. And so, one thing she taught me, which I still use today, is when he was in a psychotic episode, she sent me a long voice message that said that she was taught this by someone. And she says, keep saying stuff like, it's totally possible that, it's totally possible that this is only going to last a couple of days. It's totally possible that within a month, he's going to like have a new life. Or remember when, my son was in psychosis, even though he's in it now, but it's just the manifesting, keeping a higher frequency of emotions, and letting, I never go down the what if, oh no, look at that homeless person. And, I never go there. I stop my thoughts. I had a mentor that said to me, the most powerful thing I can do as a mother is not say, you should do this, you should do this. It is to hold his healed outcome in my vision and thoughts, just see his healed outcome. And that's powerful. And she would say, you meditate every day with water, because apparently that helps the manifesting. And I've heard that before too. I can't explain why, but and you know, when I see parents at these conferences or through the, you know, the nonprofit, I'm part of Metabolic Collective, I connect with a lot of mothers. And sometimes, you know, what can I offer? And Matt Bazuki told me, when every mother asked Matt Bazuki, what can we do? And he said nothing. Like, he didn't mean nothing. He just meant it has to come from them.
Wow.
So it made me feel like I had power. If I meditate and only envision his healed outcome, only, then that's my power. And that's how I'm supporting him. And also, he always knows I'm here for him. So, I mean, you know, if that's also supporting him, I'm always here for him. So, you know, that's sort of my health journey. And my partner, Brian, has his health issues as well. And we found that low carb is, so we did it. I did ketogenic to support Seth, not so much. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I think that's the best diet for my brain. I don't want to get Alzheimer's. But then we're like, okay, I'm going to support my son. And then my sister went on it to support my son also for weight loss. And then I'm like, I'm sharp. Like, I'm way sharper, Casey, than my 20s and 30s. Like, I got through high school with high marks just by memorizing everything. I don't even know if I understood anything. Like, I'm sure I did, but I memorized. And I was telling Jan Bazuki at the premiere, or whatever you call it, the private screening, about, like, I play piano and I could memorize for, you know, piano exams. I'd memorize a piece, very good, like short-term memory. And then I'd try to play it a month later and need the music again. This is just a little example of how my brain's working better. Now, I don't know. Now I remember songs, like I'm playing them. Like, I'm not even, like, how did this happen? I couldn't even do this when I was, you know, 18 years old, auditioning for universities. But so I just, like, this podcast, I'd be so, I'd lose my train of thought. You know, I go up to question and answers in conferences because I'm very curious. I'm not like, so I'm just really enjoying my brain right now. And that is my sort of my health journey, which includes, you know, influence from my mom, from my son, from my partner. And just, it seems like this way of eating is really, really good for me.